Hi everyone, welcome to the SI2 Steering Team Kickoff Meeting. The content of this webinar will be an introduction to SI2. We'll also go over the organizational structure that we use, and we'll talk about data collection. So we're doing all of the get ready tasks for school improvement. My name is Sue Reynolds, and I'm president of the American Student Achievement Institute, and very, very pleased to be meeting with our brand new SI2 schools. There were 19 schools altogether that we were able to award grants to, and that's the first time that we've done grants for schools, so it was kind of fun for us too to be able to provide that for you. So here's today's topics, and I mentioned a little earlier before we started recording that we like to start on time and finish on time. So we're going to go very quickly through this, but the webinar will be archived so that you can watch it again later if that would be helpful. And then we've already talked about how to type in a question or how to raise your hand and verbally ask a question. So I'm hoping that you will feel comfortable doing that. It always is a lot more fun for, I think, everyone if there's some discussion, even if it's typed in questions that we can respond to. So, and I'm always thinking if you have a question, probably 8 other people have the same question. So please don't feel shy about asking. So these are our topics for today. We'll very quickly talk about the grant that you've received and just kind of make sure that everybody on your steering team understands what's up with that. We'll do some quick introductions, and then we'll do a brief overview of SI2 and the improvement process, the organizational structure, and the leadership support that we'll provide for you. If you've talked to other SI2 schools, we're kind of known for our leadership support, so I think you'll be very pleased with the services that you'll get from us. And then we'll start with the tasks. We'll talk about how to update your uses page, how to complete that page in the online system, and what that does is it customizes the online system based on your school's needs. We'll talk about the organizational structure. That will help you right from the get-go today begin delegating your tasks so that one person doesn't get totally overwhelmed. As those of you in schools know, school improvement is a huge task, and even when it falls on the shoulders of one person, it's virtually impossible. But when we delegate the tasks and coordinate all of the work, we've seen our SI2 schools just have wonderful, wonderful results in raising student achievement without overburdening one person. So, and then we'll also talk about the data collection. We're not actually going to use data until much later in the process, but we want to get started collecting the data today. And so we'll talk with you about what data we're looking for, and then we'll delegate tasks there as well too, so everybody can kind of go out and get the data that we're seeking. That data will help you set your achievement goals, but it will also, our root cause data will help you figure out what's getting in the way of raising student achievement in your school. So it's really good data to have. So, okay, so that's what we're talking about today. And just quick introductions of our team that you'll be working with. So I'm Sue Reynolds. I'm the president of the American Student Achievement Institute. My responsibilities for SI2 are I'm responsible for designing the program and also for doing the training. So when we have these webinars, you'll be hearing from me. I'm a former consultant for the Indiana Department of Education. When I was there for about 10 years, I was responsible for several things. School counseling was my main responsibility. But I also directed the high school summit, and I also directed a regional workshop series on school improvement. So really enjoyed my time working with the Department of Education. That was well, probably about 10 years ago that I was there before coming to this nonprofit full-time. I also was a public school teacher for about 10 years, and I was a school counselor for 10 years, and was the National High School Counselor of the Year when I was served as a school counselor at Indian Creek High School in Trafalgar, Indiana. So, so that's me. The person that you'll be working with the most is Tina Weissman, and I tell you what, you are so lucky to have her as your strategic planning specialist. So between the webinars, we want to provide you with just top quality, timely support, and that's Tina's job. The only thing she does is support our SI2 schools. That's it. So, and we'll talk with you a little bit later about specifically what kind of support she's going to be providing for you. But I wanted to tell you that we always hire our support specialists from steering teams. So Tina was at one time sitting exactly where you're sitting right now. And she was working with a school improvement team that did SI2. She was also the principal in the school where they were doing SI2. And I tell you, Tina's school was among our top gainer schools. We give an award for our top gainer schools each year. Her school was a top gainer school for more consecutive years than any other school that we've ever worked with. She gets school improvement, and you know, I'm just so pleased to have her. She's been with our staff for several years now, and she's worked with so many schools and with consulting them, and then plus being, you know, in the trenches herself as a school principal doing this work. The perspective that she brings to the table is just second to none. So she's really going to be a great resource for you. And she has also taught at multiple levels, including post-secondary. So yeah, so I'm just really pleased with that. Tina is your point person. I think you'll find her very helpful. And then there's also other folks on our staff that you probably will never come in contact with, but there's a program manager, Amy Siegel, who kind of, you know, does our everything day to day for us, and David Ernst, our programmer, and then the behind the scenes running all the business aspect of our nonprofit is Nancy Nolting. So the last three people you probably will never have contact with, but we just wanted to let you know that it's a whole team that's supporting you, not just me and Tina. So, okay. So let's talk about your grant. The grant that you applied for was a grant that had a dollar amount to it, $1,450. That is the typical fee for participating in our institute. Once you see all the resources that we're providing, I think you'll say, well, how could they provide that for only $1,450? And the reason is because we work with economies of scale. You are sharing many of our costs with 18 other schools or 20 other schools. And then the other thing is, having worked in schools, we know that schools don't have a lot of money, and we really have worked hard to keep our costs down because many of our schools fund us with bake sales, with PTA donations. So we just really think it's important to keep that cost down so that you can continue the school improvement initiative that you start. And then, so this year, you're receiving the first year free as a grant. And so there actually won't be any money exchange. We're not writing you a check, but you'll receive these services without being invoiced for them. So yeah, so we're very pleased to do that. Now, here's the agreement though. The big part of your application was the assurances statement. And we just wanted to go over a little bit with your entire steering team the promises that we've made to you and the promises that you've made to us. And we take the assurances page very seriously. We want you to hold us accountable for the things that we've said that we're going to do, and vice versa, we're going to hold you accountable for the things that you assured us that you would do. If you don't follow through, it's a waste of our time, and if we don't follow through, it's a waste of your time. So we think follow through is really important. So we've agreed to provide you with a school improvement online system. I think our system nationally is second to none, and I think you'll be really pleased with it. We'll talk about it in depth in a few minutes. We're also providing you with steering team training through videos and webinars. There's a whole series of videos and then these webinars that you're participating in right now. And then steering team support. So, and again, Tina will be providing that, and we'll talk more a little bit about what that will look like later. Now, here's your agreement to us. You have agreed to convene a steering team, and guess what? That step is finished because you're all at the webinar. So the initial person who applied convened the steering team, And so you can check off number 1. That's finished. You've also agreed that your entire steering team will participate in these webinars. That's critically important because, again, we're going to delegate tasks. So if everybody's not at the webinars, everybody doesn't get to hear what's going on and understand their homework, if you will, and also understand how their homework coordinates with everybody else's work. We also want all the steering team members at the webinars because after the webinars, we're going to suggest that immediately you have a steering team discussion when everything is still fresh in your mind. So it's just critically important that your entire steering team is at the webinars, and so that's why we put that in the assurances statement. That was your promise to us that you would make that happen. The other promises that you've made is that you'll collect data, that you'll conduct 6 local discussions that will be with your steering team this year, and that after the discussions you'll develop products and you'll send those products to us. Those products will be things like a vision statement or a goals or root causes or interventions. So after each discussion, there's products that come out of those discussions, and then you'll send those to us. And then we're going to review the work as you do it, and within 48 hours you'll have written feedback from us, and the feedback might say, oh, this was a great start, but you really need to do this part a little differently, and please revise and resubmit. So whatever feedback we send you, we need you to do it and then send it back to us. There should never be any surprises. We have a very clear rubric for what we're looking for. It's based on our standards for school improvement planning, and you'll know what the rubric items are ahead of time. But we've also been doing this work now for about 20 years, and if you start to go a direction where we know 6 months from now that's going to get you in trouble, then we may ask you to do things a little differently. Or the other part of our work is that we also make sure that you're are meeting everybody else's expectations, like the Department of Ed or the U.S. Department of Ed for Title I or PL 221, and so we might say, ooh, this isn't going to cut it with Title I, or if you're a priority school, it's not going to cut it because you're a turnaround school. We need you to do some revision here. But again, all of our rubric items, if you're following the rubric items, you should never have to do a revision probably. So, okay. Now, the last point there that you've agreed to is that if for some reason your team decides to disengage, then what that means is that your team has wasted their time and we have wasted our time. So if you decide to disengage, then we will invoice you for the remaining balance of the grant, and then we'll expect payment for that for our time. Now, what does disengagement mean? We're very flexible with that. As long as you're moving forward, we're okay. We've all worked in public schools. We all know that, things happen, that you get behind or whatever. If you're 1 month behind, we don't typically get too worried if you're just 1 webinar's worth behind. If you get 2 webinars worth behind, then we get worried. And what we'll do is we'll call your school, we'll call the contact person, and we'll say, will your steering team please come up with a new timeline for us to show us that you're still moving forward and when you plan to complete different tasks. If we get that new timeline and you're following the new timeline that you've created, then we're fine. So I really don't anticipate that this is going to be a problem. We just wanted to make sure that schools weren't applying for the grant who weren't really serious about doing the tasks. And this was our way of kind of weeding them out, is to tell them ahead of time, if you sign up and you don't do the work, then it's not a grant, then we're going to bill you. So, okay, so I think that's it on the grant. Let me move forward then. So next question is, what does ASA? Just very quickly, we are a nonprofit. We were founded in 1996. We incorporated in 2000, so we've been around for about 20 years. Everything we do is pretty much grassroots, so a lot of people don't know about us. We're very much word of mouth. We have a physical office in Bloomington. We have our staff works virtually, most of them. Tina, that you'll be working with, her remote office is in Otwell, Indiana, in the southern part of the state. Our mission is very simply to raise student achievement and close achievement gaps. Our expertise is in data-driven systemic change, and we also really focus on cultural change. So that's what we're bringing to the table to offer you. We have an improvement process called Vision to Action. And for those of you who are community members representing economic development or your Chamber of Commerce, we wanted you to know that our improvement process was developed with significant coaching and mentoring from both state and national business leaders, and specifically business leaders who had expertise in systems change. We were very fortunate to be involved in a project that was sponsored by Lilly back in the early, 1995, where a few educators in the state, myself being one of them, got to spend significant time with big thought leaders in systems change from the business community over a 3-year period. So everything, this process that you're seeing, I think if you're in the business community, in economic development, this process, this data-driven process with a root cause analysis, it's going to look familiar kind of to what you do in the business world all the time. So, so our process is also known because we are data-driven. We started using data to drive change way before No Child Left Behind. I think at the point when we started doing it, we didn't even know how to spell data. Now we're kind of experts in the use of data to drive change. And then we're also known for broad community involvement. We think that's really important, especially the business community. We need the business community to be at the table to help us as educators understand the amount of rigor that's needed for productive employment in a global economy. And we've done several projects in Indiana with manufacturers, and we know how hungry the business community is to engage with educators. Just really pleased you've come to the steering team, to be on the steering team, and your input into the discussions is going to be invaluable. Of everybody on the steering team from the community, it's economic development that makes the biggest difference in the richness of the discussions. So thank you for being at the table. And then finally, we have several other initiatives besides SI2. We're currently supporting about 400 steering teams. Most of them are Indiana, but we also have about 50 steering teams in other states that we work with as well. So, okay. So what is SI2? This is what you're getting involved with. So basically SI2, or the School Improvement Institute, helps schools and communities work together to establish achievement goals, to identify the changes that need to occur both in the school and in the community to reach those goals, and then to implement the change. So unlike some school improvement initiatives, this is not about just creating a paper document. It's not about just meeting some state regulation or federal regulation. This is about thinking about the kids in your community, your future employees in your community, and thinking about what goals do we need to have for academic achievement to support our community, and then how are we going to implement interventions to address the things that are getting in the way of achievement in our community. So that's kind of SI2 in a nutshell. Our school improvement process, it is vision-based, so we're going to start with a pie-in-the-sky dream, and then we're going to bring it down to realistic goals. And the process we're using is called vision to action because it starts out with that dream, and then it ends up with very concrete actions that are implemented. It's not just a paper document that's going to sit on the shelf. It's a document that's going to drive your school, the school, every day. So the process leads to products. You'll end up with, and the first one we're going to work on today, you'll end up with a very sound organizational structure that we've experimented with and developed over 20 years. You'll have a vision statement, that dream, that pie-in-the-sky dream that you're after. If you're a Malcolm Baldrige fan, that vision is getting all the arrows going in the same direction. Achievement goals, you'll have root causes or the things that are getting in the way, interventions or what are we going to do about the things that are getting in the way, and then we also go to a second step with interventions by developing an implementation plan. that is really focused on professional development. We think it's hugely unfair to teachers to ask them to do a new intervention without giving them the skills and the knowledge that they need to do it well and to support them as they begin to try it out. So we'll talk a lot about professional development when we get to that step 6. So we develop not only what interventions what are we going to do, but we also develop a plan so that those interventions are implemented fully and implemented with integrity. So the other nice thing is that after we get all this stuff into our online system, at the end of all this, our schools love this, when the Department of Education says that there's a school improvement plan due, all you're going to have to do is push a button and that plan will pop out as a PDF and then you'll just upload it to DOE. When the Department of Education says to focus in priority schools, it's time to turn in your student achievement plan, you'll just push a button. Our system will take all the parts out of what you entered. It'll add some narrative to it and spit it out as a PDF student achievement plan. So when other schools at the end of their planning process are trying to come up with, how do we put this all together to send it to DOE, all you're going to have to do is push a button. So it's a feature of the system that we put in just as kind of a little perk because we know how long it takes to develop those reports. So, okay. So who participates in the discussions? Now, this is a little different than the way we normally do it. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is normally what happens. We normally have a steering team. So you can see down in the left-hand column, the steering team's role is to manage the improvement process. That's what you are going to do. And then also the members of the steering team are a principal, 2 teachers, and in the middle school and high school we would like one of those teachers to be a math teacher because math is such a gatekeeper course. Then a school counselor, a parent, and somebody representing economic development or the Chamber of Commerce or human resources in a larger company, somebody who's interested in what are the employees in our community going to look like 10 years from now. So that's the steering team, their role and who the members are. Then normally we also involve the entire student body in the discussions and the entire community in these discussions. However, normally we have an entire 9 months to create your plan. Normally we start with schools in August or September and then they finish up the following June working through all this process. Because DOE postponed their deadline for the school's 2015-16 plan until March this year, a lot of schools didn't finish writing this year's school improvement plan until March 1st. That meant we couldn't get started writing next year's plan, 16-17, until after March 1st. So we're kind of on a condensed process this year, and as a result of that, we're going to take out the student body input and we're going to take out the community input, and instead we're going to depend on the steering team to really do some good thinking. If you stay with SI2 after this year, after this grant year, we'll add those back in because we think it's very, very important to have those voices at the table. But because we're in this kind of hurry-up mode because of the timing with the postponement of the deadline for the last school improvement plan, we're going to take out those parts. Now, that said, let me add one other thing. Let's say you're thinking, but we would like a few students to be involved in the discussion, or we would like somebody from higher ed or our service clubs or our community foundation to be involved in our discussions. What you can do is ask them to sit in on your steering team meetings. They won't be actual members of your steering team, but this year it's fine with us if you just want to ask a few more people to sit in on your steering team. Okay, so you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, is this going to be a lot of work? And the answer is yes. Changing a culture, raising student achievement, that's not easy to do. If it were easy, everybody would be doing it. So this is hard work, but 2 things. One is it's good work. It's good work because we see the positive impact that it has on kids. And 2, we're going to make it manageable. We're going to give you all kinds of tools. We're going to delegate tasks. And it really is good work. When you see that student achievement starting to go up, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm doing this. We have a very high return rate of schools in SI2. It's like 96% or something. It's in the mid-90s. And if this were too much work, schools would drop out. If it were meaningless, wasted time work, schools would drop out. So I think you'll find that, yes, this is work. 2, it's going to be manageable. And 3, it's worth it. So when you see kids in your community benefiting, it is worth every second. It's what makes our staff work. We work pretty hard too. And we work evenings and weekends, and it's what makes us want to do this work, is when we see the achievement scores for your students going up. It gives us energy. So, okay. So you may be asking, okay, I'm going to do this work. I'm getting it, but what are the results going to be? Well, first of all, we wanted to share just a couple of things that folks have said about us. The Council of Chief State School Officers, so that's all like the state superintendents from all the 50 states, that's a group of them. They did a policy brief on our work when we were first kind of formalizing everything. And they only featured 8 school improvement processes from across the country. We were one of them. And they made this statement, which I really liked about our work. So very pleased to be recognized in that national policy brief. Former Governor Mitch Daniels, he was the opening keynote speaker at our conference a few years ago and became very familiar with our work. He sat with several of our principals to talk about what they were doing with SI2, and his opening remarks when he stood up were, I am fascinated by SI2, tell other schools in your district to join SI2. And again, Governor Daniels is very interested in education, and at times very, and maybe rightfully so, critical of education. And to have him say these positive things about this data-driven system, and how educators in SI2 schools were digging in to really make a difference in their schools, I was very pleased to have him recognize us in that way. Some participant testimony. I wanted to just drop this statement into my remarks. Many of you will be interested in using our process to meet external expectations like Title I or PL 221 or Focus and Priority Schools, or all the other Indiana code that has to do with school improvement. And I wanted to just assure you that we will be able to help you do that. We were working with all of the Indianapolis public schools, so 63 of them, and for years IPS had had some major citations with their Title I, and for years they were not able to get their Title I funding because of all these citations, or they'd get it and they'd get it really late. And I was very, very pleased with working with IPS in Indianapolis that once they started using SI2, their district stopped being cited for major compliances, and they got their Title I funding on time. So this process does work to help you meet external expectations as well. It's not our focus. We're not here to jump through other people's hoops. We're here to raise student achievement. But we understand that as schools, you have to jump through those hoops. If you're going to get Title I funding, you have to do the school improvement stuff that Title I says. If you're an Indiana school, you have to do PL 221. So we're going to incorporate all of that into our work. So you're not only doing the right things in your school based on your discussions, but you're also jumping through all these other hoops that folks have put forth for you. We're also going to help you do it in a way that doesn't use much time. So we want you focusing on the things that you think are right. That from our experience, that's been what raises achievement, not the external expectations. Okay, and then finally, this just came out last week. The Indiana Association of School Principals, in their publication, Indianagram, did an article on SI2. The article was written by Steve Morris. He is the superintendent of the Lanesville Community Schools. All of their schools are in SI2. And so if you're a principal and you get Indianagram, or even if you're not, you can pull it up on their website and kind of read what Steve had to say about our work. So, okay. Now, all of those are nice things that people have said about us, but the bottom line is achievement going up. So this is just some quick data. This was a research paper that was done on us as part of a dissertation. And this is showing the increase in the percentage of passing ISTEP tests. And this was early in our existence, 2002 to 2004. But you can see that after 1 year of implementation, there was really no difference between SI2 schools and non-SI2 schools. Very small difference. But that made sense because our first year is planning. We're not doing yet. Look what happened after the first year of implementation. We start to see some difference in the percentage of passing ISTEP, in the gains in percentage of passing ISTEP tests. And after 2 years of implementation, even bigger differences. So again, this data lets us know that we're on the right track with this process. In this study, we looked at data taken from DOE's website and looked at the increase in the percentage of passing ISTEP and ECA tests, and found that in SI2 schools the gains were 42% higher in the percentage of passing ISTEP tests. So again, really pleased with this. This is data that shows us that the process works. Okay, so that's a little bit of the background. Now let's talk about your role. So what are you going to be doing as a steering team member? We've talked about the makeup already. And the steering team in a normal year are just the school improvement managers. In a normal year, there's another council that you would be facilitating discussions with, but this year only we're going to leave the council out. So this year, you are the decision makers as well as the school improvement managers. So if there's other people that need to be at the table to help you make decisions, like the community foundation or I don't know, whoever, feel free to ask them to sit in on your steering team meetings. They won't be members, they won't have tasks to do, but they will be there for the discussions. So, okay, I mentioned that we're going to share the work, and this is how we do it. There's 6 people on your team. One of your first homework assignments that we're going to ask you even to do today is right after this webinar to assign who's going to be responsible for what. So achievement data point person, that person's responsibility is to collect, to find your school's achievement data reports and to drop some of that data into our system. Anywhere where DOE has published achievement data publicly, we've grabbed it and put it in your system for you. But if there's anything that we don't have access to because it's reports that you only have in-house, that data we want you to drop into the system for you. So if you're the achievement data point person, your work's going to be really heavy in the past maybe 2 months, maybe 1 month, and then your work's going to be finished. So you won't have any work to do, major work to do again for another year. Root cause analysis data point person, that person's going to be conducting some surveys and also coordinating some self-studies. And again, that person's work's going to happen in the next couple months, and then they'll be finished for several months after that. The council discussion point person, in a normal year, that person would be facilitating and leading council discussions, either face-to-face or using our virtual meeting tool. This year, that person, though, will be facilitating the steering team discussions. And we also have a council consensus point person to toss out the initial product that comes out of the discussions and to make sure that we have consensus on it locally. And again, since we're not working with the council this year, we're going to assign that point person. So even though we don't have a council with you guys this year, we're going to assign those point people. But they will be facilitating those tasks with the steering team instead of with the council. And then student body discussion, we would like you to appoint a person that later will, in coming years, will facilitate the student body discussion. We have whole school breakouts where we give students a writing prompt or a discussion prompt The discussion, if it's a verbal discussion, usually the discussions are facilitated by kids, and it's really cool to watch. And the kids give us, oh my gosh, just the best feedback. They are wonderful. But because we're doing this in hurry up and we're almost to the end of the school year, we're going to omit the student body discussion this year only. And then the intervention development point person, that person's work is actually going to be heavy at the start of the school year next year. A lot of times the principal will like to take that intervention development role, because then the principal is kind of overseeing and making sure that all the interventions are getting in place. Doesn't have to be the principal though, it could be anybody on your steering team. One other thing, the achievement data point person, that is usually not a good point person for the community member to be because of the FERPA regulations about sharing student data. So when we share data with the community, we never share individual student data, but sometimes when you're getting the group data, you see individual student data. So it's probably better for your community person to not be the achievement data point person. Everything else, it really doesn't matter. Okay, so that's how we're going to share the work. And then here's what you'll be doing. So every month, like you're doing right now, all steering team members are going to participate in a webinar, and then immediately following the webinar, we'll give you some discussion prompts and some tasks to complete that we'd like you to do right after the webinar. So in most months, you could figure on doing a 1-hour webinar, and then what I would suggest is bring in snacks and just sit down and, for the next hour and a half, 2 hours, discuss and come up with the products that that we're asking for that month. So most of our schools will usually knock out the work that way, and it works very well. Now, you don't have to do it back to back, though. It might be that we're meeting today and everybody has to go home right after the webinar. Then tomorrow you come back and convene and complete the tasks that we ask you to do. So then, within 1 week after the webinar, different individual people will have individualized homework assignments. Like today we're going to give an individualized homework assignment to the achievement data point person and to the force field data point person. So you'll be doing those tasks. Then within 1 week, unless we extend the deadline, which we are going to on the 2 tasks for today, but normally within 1 week you'll be submitting work to us, and then Tina will review it all, and then she'll tell you within 48 hours, she'll tell you this work was great, or she'll say, ooh, it was great, but please do this next time differently, or she'll say, ooh, I need you to revise this right now. So, so your job is to, after you have these discussions, develop the product, send the product to us, which may be a vision statement or a goal statement or whatever, and then watch for our feedback and then respond to whatever feedback we've shown you. So, to summarize, attend the webinars, have the discussions, develop the products and submit them, and then respond to feedback. Okay, so that's the steering team tasks. Can others have a voice? We've talked about this. You don't have to expand that steering team, but if you want others to sit in on your meetings to help you provide some richness to the discussions, that would be fine. Typically, here's who's at the table when we aren't on a condensed version of SI2. Usually we involve local government, your community foundation, faith-based organizations, higher education, youth service organizations like Boy Scouts or 4-H, and then anybody who's interested in youth in your community or economic development. It's really great when all those folks come to the table. It may be also that you have one parent on your steering team, but you'd like to have a parent representative in the discussions from each of your grade levels. So feel free to ask them to sit in. They won't have any homework to do. They're not part of the steering team, but they can be involved in your discussions. Okay, so here's the support that we will be providing for you. One is the leadership development webinars like we're doing right now. Here are the dates for the webinars, and oh gosh, Tina, I'm going to come back to you at the end and ask you, I think I've got a date there wrong. The 2nd August date, can you check that date for me? And the September date, I don't remember if it was the 20th or the 22nd. So if you could check that too.
All right.
Okay, thank you. And on the September date, please everybody recognize that that was a date change. So the original date that we gave you, we ended up having a conflict with, and we also wanted to give you more time for the intervention selection part. So we've moved back that September date. So okay, and we'll send you all of this in the email as well, so you'll have all this, a summary of all this information. Okay, then another thing we're going to provide is the School Improvement Management System. So we'll show you how to log in and to work your way through the system. I think before this webinar we gave you the username and passwords for a dummy school just to play with, and that was demo 789 if you just want to go into a school to look at it, or use your own username and password to log into your own. So here's what you're going to see. You'll when you log in, you'll come to a page that looks like this. This is the kind of the intro page. And over here on the left, if you click on SI2 process, you come up to our process page. The tip I like to give schools, there's so much stuff in here that you can get easily lost. The thing I always do is just click on SI2 process. Pretty much this is the only tab I ever use. The rest of those tabs in the left navigation bar are kind of shortcuts, and I wouldn't even worry about them. I always go into the process page. When you go in through the process page, you're going to see the process. So this is part of what we're going to ask you today, is to go in and you have, I've already gone over this print document with you, so you can check this off. You are watching the video, so you can check that off. You're doing that right now. So we'll have you do these tasks, and then you just work through them, check them off as you do them, and then go to the next one. I tried to design this like it was a cookie recipe. You just go to step 1, step 2, step 3. So the process is very prescribed, and again, it's based on 20 years of experience with helping schools improve. What comes out of the process is totally up to you, and every school will be different. So this is not a one-size-fits-all model. SI2 is not a model. It is a process where you discover the model that's going to work best in your school. Okay. Also notice on these tabs that there's 3 different processes in our three different curricula, I guess, in our process. You're doing year 1 now. Next year you'll do annual update, and then after that, then we'll start renewal, where we just go in every year, look at new data, and update your school improvement plan. So okay. We also provide you in the online system with a steering team manual, and it gives you all kinds of tools to use, like steering team recruitment slides. Here's a little flyer on the Institute if you need to give that to your school board or whatever. So in each month when we ask you to do things, there'll be a set of resources that correspond with the tasks. And that's in the steering team manual, and that's over here on the left. So again, these 2 tabs are really all you ever need, and you really also only need the process tab, because if I click on tools here, it's going to take you right to the manual. So, okay, and I guess while we're here too, let's look at a couple other things on here. On the process page, here's your tools. Here's where you click to to open up the template where you would develop the work. Then after you've put everything in, you can spit out a report. You use this button to send the work to Tina to review, then the due date, and then in the very last column is the status. And that's where Tina is going to give you the feedback, and I'll show you what that looks like in a few slides. It'll come up. Okay, then other things that you're going to find in that system that I think you'll really like. No, here it is. I thought I hit something wrong, and Messed up the technology. Okay, so this is just an example of what one of our data reports look like. This is a data report that we auto-populated for you. So anywhere where we could find school data for your school, we grabbed it from somebody else's website, like the Department of Ed, and we dropped it into our website for you. So you'll see some auto-populated achievement data tables. This is one of our root cause surveys. So we have an online survey. The surveys are fascinating. When we have these meetings face-to-face, we can't get people to go home. The data is so compelling to look at it, to find everything that's going on right in your school and places that maybe are really interfering with achievement. All the root cause data is also disaggregated so that you'll be able to tell, this is a problem area for our Hispanic students, but it doesn't seem to be getting in the way of our white kids. Or this is a problem area for our boys, but it seems to be okay for our girls. So, it really, our root cause assessment is really, really rich. So we also, in the system, there are some analytic reports. So for example, after you enter all of your interventions, this is just a report to help you analyze what are my interventions doing. And this specific report is looking at the turnaround principles to see how many of the interventions are addressing each of the turnaround principles. So we have several of those analytic reports that will help you analyze the strength of your school improvement plan. And again, we think this is a really rich component of our online system. And then there's all kinds of products that will spit out a vision statement, a goal statement, an interventions list, a calendar, a timeline, just all kinds of stuff. But again, I mentioned the ones that I think that you'll appreciate the most are just getting your school improvement plan out, and if you're focus or priority school, you're getting your SAP out by just pushing one button and it just spits out. So, okay. Now, another thing that we provide for you that I think you'll really enjoy is Tina. So here's Tina. There's her phone number, and I'm going to pause for 1 second if you'll write that down, because we're covering so much today. I think tomorrow you're going to say, what did Sue say? And just call Tina and say, I don't remember what Sue said. There was so much that we covered. So just anytime call Tina. So her number is 812-349-4142. That actually rings into our main office, and then you'll get transferred to Tina. And then there's her email address, Weisman, W-E-I-S-M-A-N, @asainstitute.org. Okay, so we have this rule that we think is very, very important, and we call it the 5-minute rule, and we really expect you to follow this rule, so I want to make sure I've explained it. The 5-minute rule is this: if you are ever confused for more than 5 minutes, you are required to call us. We've all worked in schools. We know how busy you are. We don't want you to spend 2 or 3 hours trying to figure out something. If it didn't make sense, or if you've forgotten something, just pick up the phone and call Tina. We hate it when schools say, oh, I didn't want to bother you. No, 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 bother us. I mean, we're here for you. So we provide phone support. We keep our school to staff ratio low enough that you should be able to talk with Tina immediately, or if she's on the phone with another school, she'll call you right back afterwards. So the 5-minute rule we think is really, really important. Matter of fact, Tina always corrects me. She doesn't want it to be the 5-minute rule. She would like it to be the 5-second rule. So even if you just want Tina to hold your hand, or or you say yes, you're on the right track, or if you want to bounce some thought off of her, or whatever, think of us as a member of your team, where we want to be part of this with you. So call, call, call. We are very proud of our tech support in this area, and we want you very much to use it. So we also very actively monitor your steering team, and on every step of the way we have friendly reminders scheduled in. We already have started that. Some of you got friendly reminders to register for this webinar. So we're always watching to see, are you meeting deadlines? Are you not meeting deadlines? Does it look like you're falling behind? How can we help? So we have a schedule that we're kind of looking to see what's going on with your team, especially webinar registrations and submission deadlines. And so if Tina calls you to nag a little bit, please keep in mind that we're just wanting you to be successful, and we know what's going to happen if you get behind. I mentioned we also provide 48-hour feedback anytime you submit something to us. So you'll click that submit button, and then Tina will review your work. She'll put a status in there that says something like meets criteria or received comments, or please revise, or just meets criteria. If you click on that status, a box will come up where you'll see how she's checked off how the document did, the product did against our rubric, and then she'll put some comments in there. Not always, but if something was really good, or if there was something that we want you to think about doing differently next time, we'll put some comments in there. So, okay. So at this point, and I realize we're approaching an hour, I'm thinking I'm going to go over about 10 minutes, and I apologize, we don't like to do that. It's just a lot of content to cover in this first one. I anticipate you're feeling kind of overwhelmed, so again, not to worry. One thing that our schools have said that we should tell you from their experience is to trust the process. And we want you to remember that here's how we feel. If we love kids and we understand global economics, raising student achievement is a no-brainer. If we want to enable the kids in your community to be able to be productive in a global economy, we've got to raise student achievement so that they can have the standard of living that they would like to have. So, but the thing is, we're going to make it manageable. It's a step-by-step process. There's that task delegation that's very clear and organized, and we're going to give you a ton of resources. Again, 96%-ish of our schools stay with us every year. And again, you know, if it were too overwhelming, that wouldn't be happening. So if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, just trust the process. It'll be okay. So, okay. Now, a couple of things that we like to do just to maybe sweeten it a little bit is if you're an Indiana educator and you need to renew your license, we award PGP points. You can get 90 professional growth points, which is equal to about a graduate course for doing your work. So in the manual, if you just do a search on the manual page for PGP, you'll find this log. Just start logging your work, and you'll submit this log to us in November 2016. You don't have to have 90 hours. You can have 45 or 10 or whatever you end up putting in, but not more than 90. Okay. We also do a Top Gainer Award. We present this at our conference every year. We used to give plaques, but we decided to give a banner so that you can hang an academic award right next to your athletic banners. It's kind of a fun thing to walk into a school and see their academic improvement awards one after another. Some of our schools have 7 or 8 of these in their buildings, so it's kind of cool to see that. Okay, so that's it. Let's get started. I'm going to talk about the tasks now to do. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to download that task list, and I'm just going to walk through and kind of show everybody what needs to happen. So, okay, so here's the tasks. You've also got this on the task list. I think it would be easier to work off of the task list, the Word doc. So when you're logging in, and I'm going to switch now to the actual online system, but this is, oh, darn, I forgot the rest of that address. This is the address that you would go to, asainstitute.org/SI2. And that will get you into this page. And then you're going to click on Steering Teams, and that will log you in. So I'm going to switch now and show you that page. Okay, so I'm logged in now. So the first time you log in, this is the page you're going to see. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this paper document and just walk down it and very quickly show you how to do each of these things. Okay, so the first thing it says is to go to the process page. So remember, the process page is that's that one button you're always going to click. So I'm going to go to the process page. And the first step says check steps 1, 2, 3, and 6 is completed. So 1, 2, 3, and 6 we have done during this webinar. So I'm going to save that. Then it says complete step 4, the SIP uses. So I'm going here to SIP uses, and I'm going to click here. And I know I'm over a little bit, but some of this stuff is so important. I'm going to click on the SIP uses, And this page is critically important. This is where we customize your school's website. If you've got things entered incorrectly on this page, then we're not reviewing your work correctly, and the system is not prompting you for work correctly. So here's what we need to know. Are you planning to use your school improvement plan for PL 221? My guess is that everybody's going to say yes, so you would check yes. Then we want to know, are you a focus or a priority school? So maybe I'm neither a focus or a priority. If I'm a priority or a focus, it's going to ask you to have you verified that with your DOE outreach coordinator. What we find is that a lot of schools make mistakes with this, especially focus schools get mixed up with focus targeted schools. So have you verified this with your outreach coordinator? If you have, or somehow you verified it with DOE, then you would check that yes, I verified that. Are you planning to use your school improvement plan to meet the requirements of Title I? If so, then you would just check off, yes, we are a Title I school-wide school. As soon as I've clicked that button and hit save, it customizes your system to prompt you to develop the things that Title I requires. Then AMO is something that we need when we get to goal setting. And what we're looking at here is which student groups did not meet annual measurable objective on the most recent state test. Now, this is, we just want to point out one thing here. We've given you a link here to where to find that information. So I'm going to go to DOE Compass. It's going to be under Accountability in the NCLB dropdown. So I'm going to DOE Compass. I'm going to go to Accountability, and then I'm going to click on AMO. I'm in as a fake school, so nothing's going to come up. But let me just go, let me see if we can do it this way. Yeah, so this is AMO for the whole state, but this is what your report will look like. Notice that there's no 2015. So DOE decided not to release AMO data for 2015. So the most current AMO data that you have is 1314. So when you're on the SIP uses page, take that 1314 data, and because that's the most current data we have, we're going to make sure that we're developing a school improvement plan that is based on the most current data. So you just check off whatever student groups did not meet the AMO. Okay, and again, AMO is annual measurable objective. It shows us which groups of students in your building are achieving at the expected level and which are not. Okay, then last two questions, how many teachers are in the building and how many students are in the building? And again, every time you answer one of these questions, it customizes the website. So it has to be accurate, and then save. Okay, so that was, I'm going to go back to the Processes tab. Very easy. That was step 4, enter SIP uses. Step 5, you're going to enter your steering team members. There's the entry page. And I've got a couple of people in this one already, but you just click add a new person and then add the information for that person and hit save. Notice too on the pages, here's an introduction. Here it takes you back to the process page, and then here's the rubric for what we're looking for. And if you click the introduction, it just opens up some instructions for how to complete that section. Okay, so back to the process tab. That was the steering team. Here's the steering team intro video. We're covering that information today, so it's already checked. Enter the primary contact. You're going to click that. And when that opens up, here's your whole steering team. You're going to click the person that you want to be the primary contact and then just hit save. We hardly ever contact the primary contact, but in case we need to touch base with you by phone, that's who we'll call. 99.9% of the time when we send a steering team email out, we send it to the entire steering team. Okay, then the last thing is entering the steering team positions. When I click on that, here are the different positions. So who's going to do your achievement data, who's going to coordinate that, and then just pick the steering team member that's going to do that. Who's going to be responsible for developing consensus with your council, just pick the steering team member, and then when you're finished with all that, hit save. Again, this customizes your system. Okay, so that's the get organized part. The next thing on the list under Steering Team B is to go down to the introduction. We're actually covering the entire introduction today. So all you have to do is go down to step 4, introduction, click all of these things as complete and hit save. So that's pretty easy. And then the third part is data collection. And I'm going to go back up to step 3, data collection. And the only thing we want the entire steering team to do is to read the introduction about how we handle data in SI2. It's a 2-pager. It's a pretty quick read, but we want everybody to read that so you understand the difference between achievement data and root cause data. You understand how we express data as a percentage of students who meet a benchmark. Our data collection is very simple. It has to be simple because we're discussing data normally with students as well as adults, and so it's always just the percentage of students who meet a benchmark. So please make sure your whole council's read that, and then you want to watch this video. So this video we posted it up on YouTube, and it explains all about how to collect the data, the different tasks that need to be done. It gives suggestions for how to delegate the tasks so that it doesn't just all fall on the data achievement data point person and the root cause data point person. So the whole steering team needs to watch that. And then the last instruction under C is that after you've watched that, you're going to delegate tasks. So if you end up being one of the data point people, your main skill that you need is delegation, especially if you're the root cause data point person. So really we need you to focus on that. Okay, so it's also that video will explain what to do with all the rest of these buttons. You'll notice that the first 2 of these buttons have to do with achievement data. So if you ended up being the achievement data point person, this is where you're going to drop that data in. The rest of these are root cause data. And again, this is why our schools improve, because we're so good at identifying what the problem is. So there are 4 surveys. We'll talk about those in a second. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. And there's a whole lot of self-studies. These self-studies, the first one is aligned with our work, and then the other 6 are aligned with external expectations that schools have to do. And some of them, like you'll notice my demo school is not a focus school, so this is not live. I can't do anything with this. My demo school is not a Title I targeted assistance school, so this is not live. So you can see when I click those things in the uses page, how it customized this system. It made some things live and some things not live. Okay, so let's just look back. I'm almost wrapping up here. Let's just look back to this list of tasks. I finished the steering team, kind of jumped ahead of myself when we've talked about the achievement data point person, that you've got 2 steps to complete, step 3 and step 4 in the data collection part. Also notice for the achievement data point person, your deadline's not till the end of May. So you've got 5 weeks to get that achievement data in. So that is more than enough time, unless you leave it for the last minute. Don't do that. And then the root cause data point person, let's look at that, because there really is a bunch of work here to do. So the root cause data point person is conducting 4 surveys: a student survey, teacher survey, parent, and community. The student survey and the teacher survey is time sensitive because you've got to get that done before you lose kids and teachers for the summer. We normally survey every student in the building, but we think that that would be too much to ask of you given that we're so close to the end of the school year. So we're asking you to randomly select 30 students per grade level as the minimum number of students that you're going to survey. And please be careful about how you randomly select those students. For example, you may choose one English section, but maybe all the kids in that English section got put in that section because they were all taking band. So it may not really be random. So think about carefully how you're going to do that. Teacher survey is really easy to do. Just ask all the teachers during their prep, in a certain time period to get to the computer and take the survey. Parent survey, you'll have to figure out how you're going to reach just 20 parents, and again, that's a little lower than what we normally do. In the community survey, that may be something where your economic development person that's on your steering team could help with that. A lot of folks will go to like a chamber meeting, and during a chamber meeting, they'll ask all the chamber members to take the community survey. One thing, kind of a heads up that's going to happen is the community over and over again is going to answer I don't know for a lot of the questions in the survey, and that's okay. At this point, they probably don't know a lot of things that are going on in your school. That's one of the things that we want to maybe change as we're looking at changing the culture, is really integrating the school, the community with the school, and vice versa. So I don't know is an okay answer. It tells us what we need to know. Okay, so then as you're delegating tasks, remember that's the key. If you end up being one of the data point people, that is key. If I were the root cause data point person, I would be finding 4 of my friends, and I'd be saying, Jane, can you figure out a way to survey 30 kids in 9th grade and you take care of that? And Joe, can you do 10th grade? And Jill, can you do 11th grade? And then I'd bring in another friend. Could you take responsibility for the teacher survey? Or I might look at one of those steering team members that's light, that doesn't have any tasks to do right now, and ask them if they would be responsible for doing the teacher survey, making sure that we get all the teachers to the computers. So don't feel like you have to do this all. I don't think you could finish this on time if you tried to do it all yourself. So, okay. I think that's it on the surveys. Just remember that we need those before the end of the school year. And then on the self-studies, there are 6 of them. The first one is ours, and that is the most important one. That's where, based on our research and our experiences over 20 years, those questions are going to ask you about key areas that we know that when schools aren't achieving, there are problems in those areas. So that's the key, and then the other 6 are what outsiders are asking you to pay attention to. So the turnaround principles, there's questions that for priority schools, focus schools, Title I schools, and again, you may not have to do all those. If you're not a Title I school, that's not going to be hot on your in your system. So, but again, I would be delegating. If you have, if you're a title school and you have a Title I teacher, I'd ask the Title I teacher to get online, show them how to get online, and ask her to complete that self-study. So yeah, so delegate, delegate, delegate. That's really, really important. Okay, so that's it. Again, a couple of suggestions. I'm going to look from this sheet again. I would suggest, in terms of your time use, I would suggest that the steering team, right after this webinar, if you can work it in, I would complete step A and step B. That's going to take you 15 minutes, 20 minutes to do. Just get online and knock it off. Then, because this has been kind of a longer webinar, and because the first 2 steps, A and B, are going to take some time, if I were you, I would maybe think about reconvening to watch the video about the data collection. That video, and by the way, you're going to advance that video to 5 minutes and 30 seconds in order to bypass the introduction that we just covered today. So that video lasts about an hour. To be honest, there's so much content in it, it's kind of dry, but you get all the content you need. So that was our purpose for having the video, is to teach content. So I'd schedule another steering team meeting when you're fresh and watch that video on the data. So yeah, so that's what I would suggest. And then the achievement data point person and root cause data point person, you'll come up with your own timeline for making sure that you get your work done by May 2nd for achievement data and June 20th for the force field data, or the root cause data. So, okay. Then also notice at the very top of this sheet, it says, need help? Contact Tina. So my guess is that at the, tomorrow you're going to say, oh my gosh, I can't remember a thing. Call Tina and just say, I don't remember anything. Where do I start? And she'll quickly get you on track. Or if you're in the meeting, if you're in the middle of your meeting with your advisory council, with your steering team, and you get stuck somewhere, just pick up the phone and call Tina. Okay, we're going to wrap up in about 30 seconds. So we did that. from the current slide. Okay. I wanted to talk like for 2 seconds about resistance. When you start this in your school, here's probably what you're going to hear. People are going to say to you, oh my gosh, it's just one more initiative. You know, we've been there, we've done that, we've had 10 million school improvement processes. Tina likes to say, yeah, but this is the one you'll like. So the reason the SI2 is different, so it's something that you can answer their concerns about. This is not a one-size-fits-all model. It's a discovery process. It's not about meeting somebody else's expectations, some legislators or some agencies. It's driven by local data. It's driven by local people. And we have significant support in its proven process. This is something that we can believe in. Okay, another thing you're going to hear is we seriously don't have the time. We're teachers. And oh my gosh, we were teachers. We know how true that is. So remember, it's a step-by-step process. Tasks are delegated. There's tons of resources. You're not starting from scratch. And we're merging all of the school improvement requirements under one umbrella. So many schools tell us how important that is and how helpful it is because we do that coordination for you and that merging for you. You don't have to worry about that. And then finally, this is something you're likely to hear when you talk about this tomorrow at school, is this is just another top-down thing that we are made to do. And so this definitely is not top-down. We have a lot of support from teachers associations because teachers are so involved in the process and with the decision making. So the steering team will make the decisions. It's not your principal, it's not the superintendent, it's not the Department of Ed. It's the steering team. It's based on local data. And then later we'll develop this broader council. After we get finished with this year's plan, we'll develop a broader council so that anybody that wants to have a voice can have a voice. And the council then will be making the decision. The council membership is open to whoever wants to join, and it's very, very rich. So, okay, that's it. I'm going to just see, or Tina, I don't know if you've been typing answers to questions. Any questions I can address real quickly, Tina? I feel bad that we've kept everybody over. We normally do not do this.
We're okay on the questions. I've been answering those as we go. But you wanted those meeting dates?
Oh, yeah.
August 1st and 22nd.
Okay, it's August 1st. Okay, August 1st and September 22nd were the last 2 dates. Very good. Great.
Okay, wait. August 1st and 22nd.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In August.
Okay, wait, I said it wrong. August 1st, August 22nd.
September 22nd.
And September 22nd. Okay, we've got 2 22nd. Okay, so 2 meetings in August. And then, go ahead.
One other thing is on the VTA process, just a reminder to everybody that once you enter in the information, then don't forget to hit that submit button.
Yes, and the save button. Our programmer loves to hit save buttons because we hate it when you don't save and then you have to go back and redo things. So anytime you run across a save button, hit it. And then, yes, that's very good, Tina. I kind of forgot to say that, but back on the, let me just show it real quickly. Back on this stuff up here, like if you're meeting right after this meeting and you're going to update your SIP uses, when you're happy with it, just hit the submit button and to send it to Tina so Tina can look at it. When you've got your steering team members all in, hit the submit button. Yeah, good catch, Tina. Anything else? Any questions? Okay, thank you for sticking with us for such a long webinar. And again, normally we used to take 2 entire days to cover the information we just covered. So we're really trying to get it in quickly. And again, feel free to call Tina as soon as you need to have any of your questions answered. So, okay, very excited to have you all here. We'll be sending out a monthly update. We do that once a month. You'll get one in May. And in that one, we'll give you a list of all the schools that are participating in your cohort of SI2 schools. And then down the road, we'll start having discussions between schools during the webinars too. That's always really cool. So, okay, that sounds good. And thank everybody for participating. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.